Welcome or welcome back to my channel. In this video I'll be reviewing the 2020 book, Work, A History of How We Spend Our Time by anthropologist James Sussman. Before I get into my ratings and review of the book, please like and subscribe and tell us what you think in the comments. There's something for everyone on this channel. This book gets the following scores: usefulness 50, engagement 55, depth 70, accuracy 85, clarity 96, uniqueness 80, book cover 83, overall score 67.77. As usual with non-fiction, this book does what it says on the tin. Sussman takes us through a long history of how humans have worked and why they have chosen to do so. As an anthropologist, it is no surprise that Sussman spends a lot of time speaking about hunter-gatherer societies, both past and present. Sussman highlights historical breakthroughs that may seem inconsequential to someone living in a developed country in the 21st century. For example, Sussman touches on the importance of fire and fire management and how that allowed for significant progress. Sussman is also interested in how economists and historians play a role in how we view work. He also examines agriculture, hunter-gatherers, and their immediate return economies and how that compares to today's economy, seeing that we've had the capacity to store food without it spoiling for quite a while now, and how that changed work and our relation to work and survival. This book is not what I was expecting initially, and it's partially my fault. I was expecting something else and I may have gotten it confused with another book I have on my TBR, which talks about work. However, Sussman's writing style is nice and he tells a story pretty well, especially given the nature of the book. His overall writing and language use is good and very accessible too. I think my disinterest at times, especially from at the start of the book, was just me not engaging with the beginning chapters. And also there's a fact that it was a little bit sluggish as well. Like, for example, part 1 is the worst part of the book for me. Sussman explored many things, and the most interesting being the use of tools in history, but my downer on this section should be taken with a pinch of salt, as I think my negativity towards it was due to the leftover residue from a book I just finished reading. The thing about switching from different book genres as I do is that it can sometimes be a bit disorientating. It rarely happens for me, but for some reason it did with this book, which was a surprise. I think because I've been reading so many books about class that I was expecting something along those lines as well in this book, for it to be kind of sprinkled in, maybe. I don't know. But anyway, it picks up, and I do like this book. Chapter 4, for example, Fire's Other Gifts, which is the title, is a pretty cool chapter. As I said earlier, Sussman showcases how fire played a very important role when it comes to how we eat. This book also contains very cool drawings, illustrations, and charts, and they serve quite a good purpose. Part 2 in the book, The Provident Environment, was short, sweet, and my favourite section. Sussman really got into his stride during this part of the book. He does a good job of sprinkling in fascinating stories and facts, one of them being a concept called demand sharing. It is now used to describe all societies where food and objects are shared on the basis of requests by the user rather than offers made by the giver. Again, Sussman is tapping into literature about certain society of hunter-gatherers, and I wasn't surprised about the content in the quote, as even today there are many cultures today who have specific rules when it comes to favors, requests, and gift giving and all that good stuff. It kind of all comes down to a time and a place, really. I like this book the more I read on. I always use the word appreciate in my reviews, and I'll continue to do so, mainly because it's the perfect word to describe what I'm feeling about the choices authors make and how they present information. I appreciate Sussman's range in this book. He intertwines the history of work using multiple people, from famous businessmen to sociologists to economists, etc. He does this quite nicely too, and the pacing is pretty brisk, especially once I got over, my little thing with the first part of the book. He tells many stories that serve as building blocks to what he's trying to portray in his book. So it's tough to judge depth of this book, but I gave it a good score because he tells the reader enough, and this is quite an underrated skill in my opinion. Many authors are too bare bones in their narrative, and other authors love to go on and just kind of drown you in information, kind of like those old school university lecturers. I like that Susan actually talks a lot about hunter-gatherer societies, and he low-key kind of portrays how things were better back in, the good old days, or at least the message is, and what I got away from it is that a simpler economy and a simpler way of living is a lot better. Susan portrays anthropology literature in this upcoming quote from anthropologist Richard Borsche Lee that breaks down how certain hunter-gatherer societies spent their time. Noting that children and the elderly were supported by others, he calculated that economically active adults spent an average of just over 17 hours per week on the food quest, in addition to roughly an additional 20 hours per week on other chores like preparing food, gathering firewood, erecting shelters, and making or fixing tools. This was less than half the time employed Americans spent at work, getting to work, and on domestic chores. This is one of the reasons, quotes like these are one of the reasons why I read nonfiction a lot. I like to just read about how other people are living, how it compares to, how things are today. And to be honest, certain hunter gatherers live a lot better lives than a lot of people in the developed world. Forget about GDP per capita and all that good stuff. Some people have the basics and live a good life. To be honest, if you're interested in history, the history of work, anthropology, I think you'll really like this book. I'm surprised I have so much to say about it given the score, but I enjoyed it and I appreciate the information that was laid out. I think there might be a discrepancy in how much I have to say about it and the score being in the high 60s because I'm not obsessed with the discipline or the topic. Interested, sure, but not obsessed. Anyway, this is quite a good book and one that I would recommend picking up. Book sales are at the highest they've ever been, which is fantastic. With that, you will need book reviews and recommendations, and the playlist on the screen will be of value to you. I guarantee there'll be something there for you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening.